Good morning. Welcome to the final day of Craft Alive's Great Australian Craft Show 3. This is our final colouring class for the show, and what we're going to be doing is colouring in this image here, this little boat image, fishing boat image from the Lakeside set of clear and digital stamps, which is this one down the bottom here. What I want to focus on today is both the blending of the background, so getting a nice even blend in the sky here around the fishing boat, and also using your brush tip markers to do some wavy effects down here in the sea. I've prepared already my colouring guide, so these are all the markers that I'm going to be using for today's project. You can pause the video here if you like and have a little look. You can use whatever colours, of course, that you would like, or whatever mediums that you have at home, not a problem at all. And if you want to colour that in watercolours or whatever, that's fine too. I have mentioned lots of times before that I tend to limit my colour palette to just a few colours. I tend to find that has a better aesthetic in the end. So mostly what we're going to be using today are blues and yellows. Right, so let's get started. Now, because I'm using alcohol inks, I'm going to have just a scrap piece of paper underneath my project because they do tend to bleed through, which is actually what they're supposed to do. I have stamped with a water-based ink, Memento water-based ink, onto a little piece of blending card. All right, now I'm going to start. I'll pull out all my markers. I have them already here at the side, so I'll just push them over to the side. I'm going to start with the yellow markers. Now, my intention is to create kind of a night or early morning scene with the dark sky, and on the fishing boat there are a few little lights that I'm going to use as a light source. So I'm going to start with the Y17, which is my deepest Y, and I'm just going to colour in the lights on the fishing boat. So as you can see, there are 3 lights on the fishing boat. They're going to be my light source for this project. All right, so that was, as I said, that was the Y17. I'm going to start by blending outward from those lights. So this is a Y15, and then a Y13, just blending over the top of the previous one that you've just coloured, to a Y11, and then because I'm going to be actually blending between a yellow and blues, I'm going down right down to a Y00, which is a really light yellow, and that will allow me to blend a bit easier when the colours aren't too strong. Okay, so you can see I've just gone around in circles. I am going to go back in with my Y17 and just add a bit more pigment back into those lights. Now, as I said earlier, these are my light sources. So what that means is that they're going to shine onto the top parts of the boat. So if the light's coming down from above, they're going to be shining on the boat. So I'm going to colour my boat with a Y13 everywhere where that light will hit. So it will come sort of down from those lights, so along the top of the boat. This is the Y13. It'll come sort of down the cabin, like that. All right, and we're going to go up to the Y15 and just darken the tops of that a little bit so that where the light hits first, it will be just a little bit stronger. Just here and there. All right, and let that blend again. Alrighty. Now, for the background, what we need to decide first is on where the horizon is going to be. So if you want to make your horizon right up there, so it looks like there's a long way out to the ocean or to the horizon line where the sun will rise, that's fine. I sort of keep it midway through the boat. I'm just going to use a piece of paper. You can use a ruler if you want to, and that'll just give me a bit of a guide. I'm not going to run my marker along the edge of that. I'm just going to use it as a bit of a guide. I'm going to go with a B39, which is the darkest of the blues, and I'm going to just spot in a horizon line. All right, and that just gives me something to work off, a bit of a structure to work off. So I know that everything below that will be the waves and everything above will be the sky. All right, so with our sky, I'm going to start with a blender, so a zero blender for those lights. I'm going to go around the edge of those lights, and that's where I'll bring my blue to. So we're going to bring the blue, the lightest blue, which is a B40s, right up to the edge of that yellow. I'm going to work outward from the light sources. So you can see I'm going around in circles. Colour straight over those masts and wires. Don't worry too much about those. I go nice and close. So we're already leaving a very small gap. And then we're going to come back in again with our blender, with our zero, and blend between those two colours. And then my Y00 again. And I'm going to actually take that into the blue. All right. So from our B40s, the next one up we're using is a B41. So we're just going to build now around each of those lights. You can see I'm just going in circles around the lights. Don't worry too much about streaks, things like that. To my horizon line. So you can see there's nothing particularly neat about what I'm doing. I'll hold this up a little bit closer to the camera so you can see. And you'll be able to see all those streaks and pen marks. Oh, good morning, Brett. So you can see all the streak marks as I'm colouring. And what will happen is as I work over the top of this, those will all start to blend in. So that was the B41. Now we're moving up to a B93. So they're different numbers, but some of the markers, if you sort of stick to the numbers too much, they don't blend well. So there's too big of a jump sometimes in the colours and you have to switch over. It doesn't matter because they're designed to all blend together. Some markers won't blend. You sort of have a lot of trouble with some of them. Some of the purples I find are a little bit difficult to blend, but the blues are pretty good. So again, we're working outwards from our light sources in concentric circles along the horizon line. And again, not worrying too much at this point about how neat our blends look. Looks a bit Van Gogh-y at the moment. Okay. That was, as I said, that was our B93. Up to a B45 is next. And you can just see how I'm building up that those dark colours, one on top of the other. As it moves away from the light source, it gets darker. All right, so that was our B45. Now we're into a B37. And just so you're aware, the B39, which is the next pen, is the darkest one that we'll be using. All right, so the only thing I've focused on at this point is making those concentric circles away from our light sources. I haven't worried about the horizon line too much, except just to avoid it altogether. But as we come back now and work on our blends, we do need to start thinking about the horizon line. So these lights now, this boat is a long way from the horizon because it's nice and close to us. So these lights are not going to affect what's at that horizon line. They're not going to lighten anything way back there. So we can start by adding that B39 down here along the horizon line. So we'll make it nice and dark. Now, be aware that we do want to get right back up to this yellow by the time we've colored that much up. So don't apply too much blue of the dark blue here, because you do need to get all the way back up to that yellow. All right, so we're just darkening now our blues. I'm going to put it all the way around my picture. So I'm going to kind of frame with that really dark B39. Avoiding this top light here. If I had a bit more paper or a bit more cardstock at the top there, I would have taken it a bit higher. Now adding this around the edges kind of gives us a bit of a nice frame as well for our work. Okay, so that was the B39. Going back downward now, so the B37, and this is how we'll be blending. So I'm going to go over that B39 with my 37, and that will start to blend. So just a little bit down here, because I've got a long way to go back to that yellow. All right, so all the way over the top. That's how we blend, by crossing them over, mixing them together. That was the B37, so back to the B45. And in the same manner, and you can see how those blends start to come together nicely. So you start to lose a bit of that streakiness. Don't overwork the blends, or what will happen is that pigment will break up and you'll end up with a sort of a mottly effect, and you don't want that. So don't overwork the ink too much. Don't go over and over the same spot too much until they've had a chance to dry. So that was our B45. Where's our B93? Well, my marker might need a little bit more ink in it. It's starting to get a bit dry. Okay, so B93, now B41. And we're almost there. So keep going, keep blending those colors together nicely all the way through. And you can see as you build up those layers, all those streaks start to disappear and the sky comes together in a nice blend. And our lightest color. right up into the yellow. Come up on the tip of your marker when you get to the yellow, and we're going to just do little soft lines of colour into that yellow, and that helps that blend as well. So it gives the effect of the light radiating out from the light itself and helps to blend those colours. So around the edge, right up to the yellow, and then up on your tip. So we're going to let this section dry for a little while, and then we'll work on our boat. So allow that to dry for a little bit, and then we'll come back and take care of that streakiness a little. Now, the darkest area on the boat, we're going to colour the boat still in blues as well. So I'm starting with my B39, and I'm going into the darkest areas. So down here at the very bottom of the boat, where it joins the water, that's going to be ultra dark. So adding some B39. Under the lip here of the top of the boat, there's a little lip. And that will be super dark in there too. Now, there won't be quite so dark up here on the cabin because there's a lot of light coming down there. So we're not going to add any of this really dark blue there. I am going to follow some of those pieces of wood just to give that effect as I go. So that was the B39, up to our B37. And again, we're blending. The color's getting darker, lighter as we go up toward the light. Flick your pen. So up on that point, flick your pen as you go. So 37 to the 45. And we're actually blending as we add these colors over the top of the previous color. They will blend. We don't want to bring that darkness down too quickly here at the top of the boat. I might actually go into there with a bit of this blue now, because that whole side won't be yellow. The light doesn't come all the way, doesn't curve down and touch that. So we'll just start to bring some of those blues in here, and we've got the B45. We're going to start to bring them in here onto the cabin as well. So the base of the cabin, start bringing in your B45. And remember, we're trying to go for the effect that the light is just hitting the tops of things. Okay, so in our cabin. All right, the B93. So I'm just finishing off the side of the boat with the B93, blending that nicely. And I'll darken up those windows just a little bit. Now here, I'm going to go back up to, not the darkest, but a B37, and I'm going to, just underneath the roof of the cabin, there'll be a shadow. So we'll make that nice and dark under there, and I'm going to add some more dark in the windows as well. And under the window. So under each of the little wooden slats, you can add a little bit of shadow if you like. Up on the tip of your marker. And that just helps with the shaping of the object. I'm going to take that the 41 up to the top of the boat. So we just want most of that, must have been a 93. We just want most of that yellow on the very top of this strip along the edge of the boat here. Just so it's hitting the very top of that boat. Right, so blending those colours together. Now we're going to as you can see, it's really about layering. So you're constantly going over and over your work when you're using alcohol markers and building up that color. Well, using anything really, because good coloring is all about the layers. It's all about layering that color to get nice and deep depth of color and things like that. All right, so nice and dark down there along that water edge. Okay, so where, as I said, where the boat joins the water is where it's darkest. So I'm coming in now with a C9, and I'm going to add just a little bit of ink along the bottom of the boat. So this, now what I'm adding ink to is the water. So where it sits in the water, it's extremely dark. So even in the bright daylight, if you look at a boat, you'll see that where it joins the water is the darkest. So C8, blending a little bit, and we're going to start to leave streaks, so not complete blends. We're going to, let me show you over here. What we're going to do is go up on our tip and then press and flex that tip and then come out again. And we're going to start creating these little waves by flexing our pen. So you have to keep moving as you do it, but it's up on the tip, press and release. And by doing it that way, what we'll do is start to form waves. Okay, so that's what we're going to start doing down here. Not too much yet with the shadows. We just want them sort of to radiate out a little bit from the boat, because what's happening with the waves is water is, where's the other marker? Water, the waves of the water will catch and refract light at different angles. So it won't all be the exact same. I must have put it away. All right, so a bit of C7 as well. And again, we're just going to give the impression of little tiny waves with our shadowy colours. All right, now around the boat, because we have that light, is where it's going to be, after we come out with the shadows, that's where it's going to be lightest. So I'm going to use a B91 now to start with some more waves. So tip, flex, tip, all around the boat. So on the tip, flex, up, flex, and you can make those as long or short as you like. Don't forget to come all the way to the edge, not too much with the light color, but come all the way to the edge with your little waves as you make them, and that will give you the continuity, so the water doesn't just stop around the boat. All right, but most of our lighter color, we're going to concentrate there around the boat where the light source is coming down. All right, so that was the B91. Now we've got a B93, and we're going to work again just over the top with those little waves. So tip, flex, and we're going to add them here and there. Work over the top of what you've already done. That will give sort of continuity of the waves. So you can see as I work, they're starting to form. You're sort of getting the idea of movement down there on the water. We don't want that to be flat. We want that to be moving as it would if there was a gentle breeze blowing, or even just regular movement of the waves. So over to the edge. And this again, this is a fairly light blue. So we concentrate that mostly around the edge of the boat. As you're moving away from the boat, so as we're moving backward toward the horizon, those little waves are going to become smaller and smaller. And that's part of the effect that you need to achieve to help with perspective. So the waves up here in the front will be large or larger, and as you work backward, they get smaller. All right, so that was our B93. We're going to our B95. This is again darker, working over the top. Just concentrate a few of the darker waves near the boat. Again, the light hits it in different ways. And then we will concentrate this darker color more toward the bottom of the scene. We do have a darker marker as well, one more darker marker. But you can take that up as much as you want to. All right, working off the edge, and again, smaller and smaller as you work away from the boat. right into the background, right up to the horizon line. So I'm mostly working on the tip of my marker now because I need to keep these waves fairly small, just to give the eye the idea that they're way in the background. And then as you work into the foreground, you increase the size. And onto our darkest, which is the B97. So bring in some darkness around these sides and then into the background, particularly along that horizon line. We're going to add a lot of waves. We don't want that horizon line to be ultra sharp. We want that to be sort of a bit blurred because it's way in the distance. So we don't need it to be super sharp. All right, and concentrate a lot of the darker waves back there behind the boat. Now, allowing a few little white spots to shine through is a great idea because it gives the impression that there's a moon up there, there are stars just reflecting off the surface of the water. So we don't want to get rid of all of those white spaces. Looking on the tip still of the marker, making sure your strokes go off the side of the page as well. So make sure you're going right to the edge and vary the thickness. So some thick strokes going off the side, some thin. Not as many of these dark waves in around the boat because, as I said, that's where the light source is. But as you move away from the boat, we'll add a few more. All right, so it's coming together nicely. I'm just working over the top. You can still see plenty of white space in there. Now the other thing I'm going to do is with my Y13, I'm going to add some little bits of yellow. So this would be just the light also glinting off the surface of the water. So concentrate them in areas. So I've got 3 lights. This one probably would be casting light more out away from the boat. This one I'm going to concentrate some light just here. And this might be coming also from just reflecting off the roof and things like that. So we'll concentrate some of that yellow here and we'll concentrate some of it over here for this light on the top of the boat, on the front of the boat. Okay. All right, so I'll give you a close-up of that water and the boat. All right, and what we probably need to do is spend a little bit more time blending our sky. Just to get that blend nice and smooth. I'm going to add a little bit of texture just on that horizon line to bring those two together with the tip of my marker. This is the B39 again. So it's nice and dry now up here where I was working before. So I can add some more layers without worrying too much about breaking up that pigment. Right, that's the B39, B37. Work backwards into the color previously. So I'm working with my B37 back into the B39. Turn your work as you go, it makes it a little bit easier. And we're sort of following the shapes of those lights. So there's sort of a curve in here, so we'll bring a curve in around there as well as we work a bit closer to those lights. You can see how that's starting to blend nicely. I'll take this blue a little bit further in. Once you've done the sky, you can think about adding in some stars if you want to. So some white gel pen, which is what I'll definitely be doing because I like how that looks. So that was the B37, going up to our B45. Work backwards into the B37, but not all the way back to the B39. So you don't want to work all the way back to the color before that. Again, we're shaping around those lights, allowing that light to radiate outward. So it does take some time to get your blends nice and even. Okay, a lot quicker with pencils. So if you like colouring with pencils, which I like colouring with pencils, it's a lot quicker because you're just laying your pigment down. You don't need to worry too much about coming in and blending and blending and blending. So I'm going to bring this actually all the way through here. I haven't worried about the masts at all. So you see I've just coloured straight through those masts and wires. You can come back in with the darker colours. So for the mast, I might in the centre here, away from the light sources, and the top of the boat, start with your B39 and then B37. Your B45, and then just take it all the way down. Don't worry too much. And same with the flags. You can colour those however you like. That probably should finish our sky. So 93. Get myself a bit distracted. So this is the B93. Working back into that darker blue. And again, not taking it back to the blue before the, I think it was the 45. I'm just going to keep it to the one previous. I just added a little bit more colour to those flags. So this marker is very dry. Once we're finished here, I'll be refilling this one. Okay, so B93. It's just about had it. And our B41. And then we've only got the B40s left. So that'll be the one right up beside that yellow. All right, blending it backwards. Radiating that light outward. To our quadruple zero. right up into the yellows. Now it's a bit streaky still, and I think that's because that one pen around here has dried out so much. So I'll need to come back in once I've filled that pen and make that a little bit nicer. All right, so our Y00. And while that's wet, so while that Y00 is wet, we'll just hit it with a little bit of a blender pen, the 0. Not too much because this will lift up some of that color, but just enough to blend the blue and the yellow a little bit more. All right, so that's pretty much it. Now, as I mentioned before, you can add in some stars. I like to use these Sino pencils by Uniball. I find the broad tip. I know a lot of people have trouble with their white pens. I find the broad tip seems to last longest. I always get it going just off my page and then work onto the page. So dots and dots and spots for your night sky, for your stars. And remember, they'll be brightest in the darker blues. And you can do as many or as few as you like. Make sure you take them to the edge of your image. Again, that's for continuity, and right down to the horizon line. Have less stars in the brightest areas of your image. And that's because the light, obviously, the light from the lights will obscure any light from the stars, which it tends to do anyway. They're not quite as obvious when the white spots aren't quite as obvious when they're on the yellow. Okay, so there's our colored image. Again, a little bit more blending is needed around those lights once I get my blue pen refilled. But that's the basics of it. You've got your nice wavy ocean down the bottom. You can have a go at this and add colors from a sunset. So if you had a nice sun, you might add some reds and purples and oranges down coming from that sun. You can actually do whatever you like. So, but just keep in mind where those light sources are coming from. And if you reflect them in the water, that gives a great effect. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed all of the coloring classes. Our last class for this show will be at 1 o'clock, and we're going to be making a slider card. So I hope you'll join me then. In the meantime, enjoy the rest of the show, and thank you very much for watching.